This is a different day, not so sunny, and I thought maybe I'd put in perspective where I'm going to go now. I was up there at the incline, and then I followed the minecart track across the mountain to where the charcoal burner huts proposed are. Up in there is the large shaft mine, and then I started down that creek, and I closed with a tall hemlock. Well, I'm going to go downstream from the hemlock and start right over in there. But again, to put this in perspective, this area was mined, and it was a very busy area and very hard to understand, especially right, let me try zooming, right in there where it's so grown up. That face of that was a mined face. There was a railroad or a minecart track or both that went down through there, and it ultimately went out and on down the valley. So now I'm going to walk into the woods and pick the story up downstream from that big hemlock. This might be a better place to start because I could maybe put this in perspective. This water supply has nothing to do with the mining. This is my work. This is another BIS. I call this Michael BIS. And it crosses and then stays on the upper side, the uphill side of the tram road, what that man called the tram road. And that tram road, there's a pile of perhaps iron ore right there which remains. I don't know if that was what they were mining. It might have been. And the tram road goes out through there, but it is so grown up. And I'll show you down a little lower it's very clear what it was, but it's very grown up, and it will take a lot of clearing still. And down a little lower is an area of great activity. But I'm going to go over now. That tall hemlock is up in there a ways, and I'm going to follow that creek down to a spot. That was quiet because of the sound. If I put a soundtrack on these videos, I'll probably use water. That hemlock is up there. I'm not sure. That looks a little bit like a white pine that you see. But anyway, this is about 100 yards, maybe 200 yards downstream. And what's of interest here to me particularly, and this is right at the boundary between two properties now. I'll see if I can fish this out. I hope, maybe not. I should. There's a pipe here. Well, it's a plastic pipe. I'm not going to take the time to dig it out. But it was buried there, I'm sure, by my grandfather. And it was to take water all the way down to the barn. And I used to think that he used a backhoe to make this route. But now I don't think so. Now I think he used what was already here. And I suspect, and up here just a little ways, I think I can show you why. I suspect that this was from an earlier time. I suspect that water was diverted here. It's just a theory, but that water was diverted in order to supply the complex down there. The complex, which is so complicated. These stones do not look to me like the work of a backhoe, and they look to me as if they were done with manpower. And why to run the water there? I think they might have either had a mill, that's what I was thinking before about a week ago, or else because they cleaned the iron ore there. This is an area, well, I'm going down there in just a moment. There is where I was just standing. Here's where the ditch or the excavation runs. There's the end of the pipe. Very easily water runs out that if I would unclog the other end. But then my grandfather took it on all the way to the barn to be a water supply for his cows and pigs. But this area, between me and where my dog is, Paige, this area is so overgrown, and yet it has such a story to tell. If I had, say, 5 men here working 5 days, about this time of year or a little later, we could maybe figure it out. There's too much here to show you at this moment, but many features. I'm going to go on. There's that very grown-up area where I just was. Where I'm standing, there's a foundation underneath my feet, which I have struck with the shovel as I've been ditching. It's one of the complexes. And I'm basically walking right along it. If the ground were softer and I had my shovel, you could hear it hit the stones. And right there, where just this side of where my dog is, pretty certainly there was a well, because the ground lets water out. Right here, and the vegetation is different as well. You know, it all starts with a very thorough mowing, I guess, which I haven't done yet. And now we're going to go down there and take a look at that mine face. The presence of these old apple trees, or crab apples, speaks some of what happened here. That tells part of the story. And the blue ribbons that you'll be able to see on that tree and over in that tree maybe, that's from the time that I walked this with those students, trying to identify where that minecart track might have once come out. But it is, as I've said so often, it is so subtle. Since this was done by hand, so much of it. There is a line of stones at this confluence. Up there is probably another mine face, or whatever they call it, cliff face. These stones are not natural. There might have been a crossing here. There might have been a bridge right there. And down there, you'll be able to see something that's more clear. You hear the sound of a log skidder going up the road. That scared my dog, and she ran back to the house. Anyway, this mine face, this bank, this cliff, was very clearly worked, and probably worked heavily. A feature that I've come to recognize is this row of stones right here. They were laid, I assume, to support the one side of a minecart track, and you know, and sometimes you can't really recognize it so well. The very fact that that is so swampy up in there is evidence that something was done, and draining it is quite a problem. Right in there, there was some kind of a building. I believe I've hit that foundation. All right, I guess with the noise and all, I'll leave this. That's where I just was. Here, there was a road of some kind that connected to that complicated area. These 2 crab apples speak to it. Water comes out here unnaturally. And then going over here, this water is my doing. Maybe we'll just get a little bit of the sound. But I dropped the water over a wall that was here. I'll come down and hear it better here probably. You can even see that sandstone is mixed in there, and probably there was a wall laid here. Now why? I don't know. This might have been a tipple, I think they call it, where the ore was transferred. Don't know. Later I'll take you through the buildings and tell you what they're over. But let's just follow this up as a way of closing today. I call this Erica Falls, and it's part of the BIS system. And where we started, that water that I said was my doing, over there by the woods, that water comes here along a perfect contour, and then I finally drop it here at Erica Falls. If I want to, I can take that water on across here and it runs above my house. That building I'll have more to say about later on. It's obviously not finished, but it's over a dug well. And this stone right here is from digging. There was a strip mine that went right up through here. There you can see an unnatural mound where some of the spoil was built up. And it went right up through here, possibly to the top of the hill. But then it was bulldozed shut. Okay, finally, this will be my way of saying goodbye for this video.